In this training video, we'll go over locations. Locations must be set up before you can scan in any inventory into the warehouse system. When you scan in product or move product or take out product, it always prompts you for location. So location is a required field when you're bringing inventory in or moving inventory. So when you're scanning in product, you'll scan either the tag number and the article number, just the tag, or just the article, and you have to scan a location. So at this time, if you're watching this video for the first time or looking at Windfall for the first time, you'll probably want to go out into your warehouse and label your warehouse with floor spacing, racking, cages, trailers, things like that. So you want to have some sort of system set up for your location. So locations are located up here. It's the 4 boxes for icon. Click location icon. As you can see, we don't have any locations set up yet. So I'm going to go over how to show you how to create locations and how to utilize them. We have 9 types of locations in Windfall. Those types are floor, rack, record storage, trailer, cage, employee, miscellaneous, vault, and pallet. Those types cannot be changed or modified in Windfall Classic. You'll have to select from one of those types when creating locations. So, for example, floor, the type of location, the beginning letter always supersedes in front of the location tag itself. So if I wanted to call my dock 1, I would have to give it a type. So I would say it was a floor type, and my location tag would be F dock 1. Because it's a floor, begins with the letter F, it would be F dock 1. So to begin, we always hit the white page to add new in Windfall. And I always work left to right throughout the software. So we start with type. And you can select from the drop-down. Again, these are all the types that I've just listed. So we'll select floor. You must select your warehouse code. Because if you have more than one warehouse code, you'll have to say which warehouse code you want to designate these location tags that you're creating. So you select the warehouse code, and then location tag is what you want to actually call the location. So like I said, dock 1. So I want to call it dock 1. It's yellow, so I save. And now I have my warehouse code, warehouse 1. Type is floor. Location tag is called F dock 1. So the actual location in Windfall is called F dock 1. You can also add multiple locations. So if you had floor spaces in your warehouse and you had 15 floor spaces, so you called them 0 or 1 through 15. Instead of entering each location one at a time by hitting white page to add new, you can hit add multiple locations, select your type, which is floor, your warehouse code, and then I would put in my location 1 through 15. Also, I want to mention that I'm going to change this and put it as 0, 1 through 15. That way it stays consistent with the amount of numeric characters. So when you're building a report or you're trying to sort by location, it'll go in order if you have the same amount of characters for all locations. So it'll sort 0, 1 through 15 instead of doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we do 0, 1 through 15. We click OK. You're about to add 15 locations. Do you wish to continue? Yes. So now I just created 15 floor locations. F01, F02, and so on and so forth. So it's yellow, so I can save. So also we have, remember consistently throughout Windfall, whatever you have highlighted is what you're viewing and what you're working with down below. So I have highlighted F01. We have options to the right. We have offsite, reserving, inactive, override, square footage, cube footage, and vault capacity limited to. If I wanted to make this location offsite, I could check the box as offsite. What offsite means is the inventory piece is not in your warehouse. It's offsite somewhere. So if you are still, such as in record storage, if you're still tracking that inventory piece, but it's no longer in your warehouse. It's an off-site location, but it's still in the system as an in-inventory piece because it's coming back. You can mark that location as off-site. Therefore, any inventory that you have scanned into that location will not appear on the web because it's technically off-site. It's not in the warehouse. It's not currently in the warehouse. But if you're tracking inventory at an off-site location and you're tracking it through the system and you want to see it in inventory, you have to have a location in the system, but you can also mark it as an off-site location. Reserving. What reserving means is if you mark a location as reserved, it is a reserved location within your warehouse. For example, if you had furniture within your warehouse and say you repaired damaged furniture when you have it, you could create a location called F Repair for floor repair location and mark it as reserved, and then any product you moved into that F Repair location is marked as reserved. Therefore, that keeps anyone from putting that inventory piece on a work order or scanning it out of inventory because it's marked as reserved and it's in repair. Inactive, that is to mark a location inactive. Like I've said before, you don't want to delete anything out of the inventory system. You always want to inactivate it or archive it. So if you create a bunch of locations in your warehouse and then you move racking or you design your warehouse a different format, you can inactivate your old locations because locations contain history. Windfall will track a piece throughout the beginning time to the end time. It saves the history of the piece. So wherever it was scanned in, the date and time it was scanned in, what location you assigned it to, where you moved it to, when it went out, when it came back in. So we track the history of a piece. We also track the history of locations. So if we ever wanted to run a report based on, at one time I want to see what all inventory I had in a given location, I could check. So if you want to, rearrange your warehouse and you no longer want to use F0101, you can inactivate that location. The only stipulation with inactivating a location is you must make sure that you scan all inventory out of that location first before you can inactivate it. It has to be empty. Override percent used. What this means is Windfall allows you to put as many inventory pieces as you want into a given location. Unless you specify and tell Windfall how much square footage your warehouse is and designate square footage for each location, it doesn't know how large it is. So when you scan an inventory piece into a location, it automatically assumes it's 100% used. So whether you have one piece or a million pieces, it says it's 100% used. So it's always 0 or 100. So if you ever wanted to look in locations at what percentage is used for that given location, it is going to say 100. So what you can do is you can override that location and actually mark how much percentage is actually used. Square footage. This is to designate how much square footage a given location is. That way, if you want to collect data based on the square footage of a location, you can assign square footage to a location. There's two ways to track square footage. One way is through the location, and the other is by the piece. So you could do both, or you could do one or the other. Same with cube footage. If you want to track the cube footage of a location, you could as well. Bulk capacity limited to. What that means is for locations, pallet and vault, they are both locations, but they are also locations that require locations. And the reason they require locations is because they move. So for example, if someone in your warehouse said, go get me John Jones's inventory off pallet 123. Well, you could say, well, where is pallet 123? Because a pallet moves. It could be in a rack. It could be on a floor. Technically, you don't know where it is unless you know in your head. You wouldn't know through the software. So Windfall requires when you create pallets and vault locations that you also assign them a given floor or rack location. So, for example, vaults, when you create them, you're going to put them on a floor as well. So if you want to designate a floor space to only contain 4 vaults, you can set it right here with vault capacity limited to and say this floor space is only allowed 4 vaults per space. Otherwise, the system will let you just put in as many vaults as you want in a given floor. But if you want to say, I only want this F01 to have 4 vaults scanned to it, you could limit it by using this feature here. So since we're talking about vaults and pallets and how they're locations, but they also require locations, I'm going to create a vault now. So you hit White Page to add new. You select your type as vault, your warehouse code, and then you name your vault tag. So if I want to call my vault, my vault number is 100, then down below you see it says floor location. Now you have to assign it to what floor location that vault lives in. So I could say FDoc. So it's yellow, so I save. And now it says warehouse 1, vault, V100 at FDoc. So now you know where that vault is actually located in your warehouse. V100 is located at floor space doc 1. I also like to suggest during trainings is to save some time. What I would do first is create a temporary floor location. So you hit White Page to add new. You select the type as floor. Warehouse is warehouse 1. Location tag, I would call it temp. Okay? And it's yellow, so you save. So now you have a location called ftemp. Now instead of having to go out into your warehouse and write down where all your vaults are and what floor space, what you can do is when you're creating your vaults in Windfall, you can hit add multiple locations, select vault, and select the floor location to be ftemp. So you mark it as a temporary location just so you can get all your vaults into the system. So I could say vault 101 to 150, save. You are about to add 50 locations. Do you wish to continue? Yes. So I just created 49 locations. It's yellow, so I save, our 50 locations. And I put all my vaults in, but they're all located at ftemp right now. So what we do is we have a feature on the scanner called Vault Move. It's called V-Move. So when you're out in the warehouse and you are scanning product in and out or moving vaults around, you can do a V-Move to where the vault actually is located. So that'll save you some time instead of initially walking out in the warehouse, writing all the vault numbers down and writing what floor space they're in. You can just create all your vaults, put them in ftemp, and when you're in the warehouse, just do vault moves to where they're actually located at. And a vault move is just scanning the vault number, V100, and scanning the floor it's at, F250. So that'll just save you some time. I also mentioned before in basic setup for Windfall Classic that you could smart code locations. If you didn't want to purchase multiple warehouse licenses and you have multiple warehouses that you want to utilize, what you can do is you can smart code them. So for example, you have one warehouse license, but you want to track inventory in all 3 of your warehouses. So what I would do or suggest is smart code them. And what I mean by smart code is label them in somehow. So warehouse, we could have warehouse A, warehouse B, and warehouse C, for example. So when I create locations, I can have the same location in multiple warehouses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit add multiple locations, and I'm going to create some locations for my first warehouse. So I'll do floor. My pre-tag I'm going to mark as A because that's going to stand for warehouse 1. Warehouse 1 is going to be A, warehouse 2 is going to be B, and warehouse 3 is going to be C. So my pre-tag is A. So my location tag is going to be 100 through 150. So now I say, okay, you're about to have 51 locations. Do you wish to continue? Yes. So now I have 51 locations marked as FA100, FA200, 101, 102, 103, and so on and so forth. So it's yellow, so I save. So that is smart coding locations. So whenever I see an A in front of any of my locations, I know it belongs to warehouse A. So then when I create locations for warehouse B, I hit add multiple locations, select floor as my type, my pre-tag would be B, and my location tags would be 100 to 150. Okay, You're about to add 51 locations. Do you wish to continue? Yes. So now I have 51 locations with FB 100. It's yellow, so I save. So now when I ever see locations that I create with a B in front of it, I know it belongs to warehouse B. And that is what we call smart coding. So you put some sort of letter or code. It doesn't have to be one letter. You can have multiple letters in the front. Or as you can see when you hit add multiple locations, you can have a pre-tag or a post tag. So the letter could be in front of the number or it could be behind the number. So for example, if I put C in the post, I would say 100 to 150. Okay. I'm about to add 51 locations. Do you wish to continue? Yes. Then I have F100C. So I could save. So then I see C, I know it's warehouse 3. But like I mentioned before, you want to stay consistent when you're creating articles, when you're creating locations, when you're doing anything. So in the beginning, during setup, you want to think, okay, do I want to smart my location with the letter in the front, or do I want to have the letter in the end? So you just want to stay consistent. So that's what I mean by smart coding. You can have the same location in multiple warehouses. You just smart code it by using a letter or a number or some identifier to represent the separate warehouses. So that's what I mean by smart coding. Back to add multiple locations. These are the only types that you can use for add multiple locations: floor, vault, rack, record storage, and pallet. All the rest you have to add individually, one at a time. So like I said before, the different types are floor, employee. A reason you would use employee as a location, for example, is if you wanted to start tracking maybe shirts or sweatshirts are material you use in your warehouse. So you could create a customer, say your company name is Asset Controls. You could create a customer called Asset Controls, create articles for sweatshirts, t-shirts, whatnot. And then when employee Amy comes and says, I need 3 shirts and 4 sweatshirts, you can scan that inventory to me and create me as a location. You have floor, which we went over as the floors. You have miscellaneous. Miscellaneous could be marked as, if you have a ladder area where you put your ladders, you could select the type as miscellaneous and have the location tag called ladder and call it M ladder. Or a lot of warehouses have mezzanines. You could select the type as miscellaneous, the warehouse code, and then the location name would be mezzanine. Location tag would be mezz. Pallet, when you have pallets, you can identify them using pallets. Record storage, like I said before, the location, the letter supersedes in front of the number. So R for rack, P for pallet, M for miscellaneous, F for floor, V for vault. Record storage, since R is already used for racking, record storage is used as an X. Record storage is typically used in record storage. Trailer, if you want to use a location, if you store things in trailers, you can use the trailer number, so it would be T, your trailer number, or some warehouses use the license plate of the trailer as the location. Vault and rack. The only thing is different with racking for location types is racking. Windfall requires you to collect certain fields for racking. So let me explain. So when you go out into your warehouse to capture your rack locations, Windfall requires you for racking to select a slot configuration, a row, a bay, and a level. So for example, what a row would be is if you're looking, say you're walking down your warehouse and you're looking at your rows of racking. So your row would be the entire row. So you kind of want to, when you're creating your racking, you want to make it either alphanumeric or numeric alpha, because if you do it all numbers or all letters, it's harder to read. So for example, let's say I have 15 rows of racking. Let's start with row 1. So I'm going to label, my first row is going to be 01. My bays, that's how many bays are in row 1. So now you go around and you stand in front of your rack and you count how many bays you have in your row of racking. So I'm just looking at the first row. So I'm walking down row 1 and I'm counting the bays. Typically bays are about 12 to 17 in each row. So we'll say that row 1 has 15 bays. Then level, what that means is if you're standing in front of a bay, how many levels does the bay have? Typically the bay has 3 to 4 levels. You can go 5 levels, or you can have double high racks and go even further than 5, depending on how large and tall your warehouse is. So you're standing in front of the bay and you count the levels from bottom to top. So you would say 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first bay you're looking at is 4 high. Then you would walk next to the second bay and count how many levels that one is. That one may be 3 high. The next bay may be 4 high, and you have to go down all 15 bays and count each level. I've noticed that most of the time they're all, the same 4 high. Sometimes they're not, depending on if it's racking with carpets. You could have 5 high. Or if you have racking stuck in the middle where it's an entryway for a forklift to go through, maybe that one's only 2 high because there's a big opening where you drive a forklift through. You just want to make sure that you count how high each bay is, how many levels. Then slot configuration. What I mean by slot configuration is if you're standing in a row, standing in front of the bay and looking at the first level, that's your slots. Typically, the slot configuration options are 1. That means the entire bay. So like if it's a couch rack, that would, you typically just house couches on it. That couch is going to take up the entire bay. So the slot configuration for that is 1. Or you could do LCR, which stands for left, center, right. So you could scan product into the left side of the bay, the center of the bay, or the right side of the bay. Or maybe it takes up the whole bay. And then the other one is LR for left, right, if you just wanted to capture the left side and the right side. It's just up to you how you want to capture it. But if you say, for example, you select left, center, right, and you put a copier in there that takes up the left and center, you could scan LC. You could scan CR. You could scan LCR, representing the entire bay, or you could just scan L, depending. You're setting up, what you're doing though is setting up a slot configuration for after you scan the product, scan the rack, then you must scan what slot inside that bay you put the piece, whether it be on the left side, the entire bay, the right side, or the center. So typically people select LCR, meaning I'm going to choose either left, center, right, the whole bay, left, center, and so on and so forth. So for my first row 1, I'm going to put 0, 1 to 0, 1 because I'm doing my first row. It has 15 bays, so like I said, either do alphanumeric or numeric alpha. So that's going to be, I'm going to use letters for my second. So I'm going to have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O. A to O, because that represents 15 bays, and then I have 4 high for all 15 bays. So I'm going to do 0, 1 to 0, 4. Then I say, okay, you're about to add 60 locations. Do you wish to continue? Yes. So now you can see I have rack 1A01. That location stands for row 1, bay A, level 1. This one is row 1, bay A, level 2. Row 1, bay A, level 3. Row 1, bay A, level 4. So that represents each level in each bay for each row. So it's yellow, so you save. And then you can see to the right, my slot configuration is LCR. So what you're going to do when you scan product into a rack is you scan the tag, you fill out all the data for it, and then you scan the location. Whenever you're bringing anything in, location is always required. So I'm going to scan, since I'm putting it into row 1, bay A, the first bay, and the first level, the bottom level, that's the location I'm going to scan. And then it's going to ask me for my slot configuration, and I'm going to say if it's on the left, the center, or the right, or maybe the whole bay, or just the left and the center, and then I select my slot configuration. That is how racking is set up. Windfall requires you to set up your racking this way. So you must have the row, the bay, and the level. Also, when you use add multiple locations for racking. If all your rows are the same, say you have 15 rows and they're all 4 high and they all have 15 base, you can do this where you would do 0, 1 through 15 bays, A through O, and levels 0, 1 through 0, 4. You don't have to do each row one at a time. You only have to do them one at a time if they change. So if you have, for example, say my row 2, my row 2 has 14 bays, so I would go A to N, and then it has 14 bays, but bay 1, 2, and 3 are 4 high. So I would only do bay A through C because my first 3 bays are 4 high, and my 4th bay is 3 high, so I can't do them all at the same time. So I do row 2, bay A through C. The first 3 bays are 4 high, 0, 1 through 4. I say, okay, you're about to add 12 locations. Do you wish to continue? Yes. So now I added those. So it's yellow, so I save. Now I have to do D through F are 3 high. So I would hit add multiple locations, rack, select LCR. I would do row 2 again. Bay D through F are 3 high, so I'd do 0, 1 through 0, 3. Say, okay, you're about to add 9 locations. Do you wish to continue? Yes. So that's the only time you have to do one at a time is if the amount of bays change or the level high, how high the level is changed. But you always want to stay consistent and make sure that you're capturing your locations correctly. So that's racking. So that's how Windfall requires you to capture racks. We also have print label here. So whatever you have highlighted and hit print label, once you have the printer that we provide set up and connected, you would print your locations from here. So you would just highlight whichever locations you want to print and hit print label. The rack locations and the arrows are printed on 1.5 by 2 label, and every other location such as vault, pallet, floor are printed on 11 by 2 rolls. So if you order a printer from us, we'll send you 2 types of labels, one the long one and one the small. So you just have to make sure you have the correct label in when printing, and you just highlight and hit print. Add multiple locations we went over. Update selection. You'll notice this feature multiple times within the software. This is a nice feature to utilize when you need to. Say, for example, I added all these vaults, and I forgot to add the square footage to the vaults. Well, instead of individually highlighting each vault and putting the square footage in one at a time, I can highlight all the vaults, or the vaults I want, put in the square footage, hit update selection, and save. And what that will do is it will update that selection to 25 square feet. So whatever you highlight, as you can see now, when I click on each and individual one, they say 25 for the square footage. So if you highlight them all, do your modification, hit update selection and save, that'll update all pieces highlighted. View location history, that is utilized for vaults and pallets. So what you can do is if you're highlighted on a vault or a pallet, you can view the location detail. So what it'll show you is the history of that vault. So if vault 109 was originally brought into FTemp, if I ever moved this vault, right here I could see what date and time, which employee or user in which warehouse did this vault move to. So once I start doing moves on vaults and pallets, I can track where they started at, where they went to, and where they are now. You'll also notice consistently in Windfall that we have this display only active locations. Like I've mentioned before, we always archive or inactivate things. So when we have highlighted display only active locations, Windfall is only displaying active locations, locations that we can use. Display only inactive locations, that'll display any location that we inactivated. And you'll consistently see throughout the software if something is active and in use, it shows up in white. If it's archived or inactivated, it shows up in gray. So if we had any inactive locations, that's where they would display. And we could always go back and reactivate anything as well. We can always go back and reactivate locations, customers, orders, and then display all locations. That'll display all active and inactive locations. So once you have all your locations set up and created in Windfall, then now you can start bringing in an inventory. Also, like I mentioned before, you have the option to purchase a printer and print your own locations, or you can call us and request that we print the locations for you. That's another option. The third option that I suggest a lot of times on trainings is instead of printing floor locations on labels, because labels, if you put them on the floor or you put them on the wall or you put them on a column, you always have to get off the forklift to go over and scan the floor or scan the wall or scan the column. Well, what you can do is, I always suggest is creating a little floor location booklet that you can hang on the forklift. And what you can do there is you just have a booklet, and then the guy can just turn around, or woman can turn around and scan the floor location instead of having to get off their forklift to scan it. You can also create placards that hang above each floor location, each row, and have a book. You can have all these different options. So if you do want to use my suggestion and create a floor location book, you can do that in Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Word. Either one works. And how you do it is you would have to download 2 fonts from us, which we're going to have to do on the original installation anyway, because that's the fonts that show up for work orders. So what you do is you go into Microsoft Excel. This is the one I typically use. And you select first. There's 2 different types of barcodes that you can select from. One is 3 of 9, which in the drop-down just appears to be a barcode. The other one is called WASP 39, which is at the bottom, WASP 39MC. So I like to, for this scenario, I would select WASP 39MC, and then I select my font. I typically select the largest, 72. So then I can create my floor locations. So you have to create them just like they are designed in Windfall. So if I wanted to create a floor location for F01, I would go into Excel. Now this part is very important. You have to hit Shift 8 to make an asterisk first. Every location that you create in Word or Excel has to have an asterisk before the word as well as behind it. So I would put F01, close asterisk. So I just made a location. And just like I said, for Windfall, it has to look exactly the same, so I have to include the F. So again, what I did was I went to here, I select WASP 39 as my font. Then I select the size of my font. Then I would use at least 2 to 3 spaces between each location, because when you go to scan it, sometimes it could accidentally pick up the upper or lower location next to it. So you hit asterisk, F02, close asterisk. So then you just continue creating this like this for all your floors or vaults or whatever. I would use the labels for vaults because you can stick them on the vaults. And with label vaults, I would make at least 2 vault labels for each vault. That way you can put it on each side of the vault and don't have to worry about how you're putting the vault back when you're putting it back after you pull it. I would put a vault sticker on each side of the vault. That way it just makes it easier for you and you don't have to be concerned with what direction you're putting the vault back when you're putting it back. So that's how you can create a little book. So you continually go through and create each floor location, print it out. You can do it both sides. Put it in a laminated piece of paper and then put it in a binder or just clip a hook through it and hang it on the forklift. That way you can just go through and scan whenever you choose your location to put your inventory in. So that's a nice way to use for floors. I would suggest just using it for floors. I would print out the rest. I would print out my pallets and my vaults. Maybe just use this booklet for floors, miscellaneous, cage, things like that. The other font that I mentioned was called 3 of 9. That one is just a barcode. This is a good feature to use for usernames and passwords. On the scanner, the font's a little small, so for some people it's easier just to scan their username and password when they want to log into the scanner. So what you could do is you could create little username and password through using Excel and laminate it, and everybody could carry it around in their pocket. So what you do is, the difference between the two barcodes is WASP39 shows the verbiage underneath the barcode. 3 of 9 barcode only shows the barcode. So, for example, I selected 3 of 9, which is the barcode font. Once again, you must begin with an asterisk. I'll put in Amy, close asterisk. Now you can see I just created a barcode without any verbiage underneath that said my name. So that's a good barcode to use, 3 of 9, when you're creating username and passwords that you want to laminate for them to scan, to log into the scanner with. So 3 of 9 creates a barcode with no verbiage underneath, and WASP39 creates a barcode with verbiage underneath. So those are the two differences. So that's just a tool you can use. You don't have to use this if you don't want to, but it's a nice feature. So that concludes this locations training video.